Hello, BookTube. Sorry for the abrupt change in lighting for this video as to the others that I've made today. A certain someone wanted to cuddle. That's right there. A certain someone wanted to cuddle, so we were cuddling, and then after a while, I thought, well, that's probably enough of that. And when I did that, a little paw came out and went, no, keep going. So a little time went away. But I have another video that I want to make, another signal boosting video, as the kids say, because we have yet another BookTube book club. All the cool kids are doing book clubs. Of course, I have one, the Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club. We'll be relaunching in March. We're reading Sarah Bradford's biography of Queen Elizabeth II. And Michael K. Vaughan, of course, has the Rogers Cheap Old Book Club. I don't announce a schedule for books for the whole of the year. Michael did with Rogers Cheap Old Book Club, and his lineup has some surprises on it. But you know two things about Rogers Cheap Old Book Club. One is that Mike is going to be incredibly enthusiastic the whole time, and that can mean a lot. That can really get you through a book club pick that maybe isn't your own. And the other is that they'll be free. Rogers Cheap Old Book Club is the cheapest book club on the internet because all the books are free. They're all on Project Gutenberg if you do e-reading. But we have another. We have among the many, many others. There are many, many other book clubs, but among the many others, Randy Ray, the literate Texan, has launched a book club of his own. I will leave a link to his announcement video down below. The Lone Star Book Club, which you would think from the title and from Randy's outsized Texas personality would be all about Texas. And although the Lone Star Book Club's reading list for 2025 does touch on Texas quite often, it isn't solely restricted to that, which is really interesting. It's a really good lineup of books. They aren't free. Most of them. Some of them are, but most of them are not. And Randy says in his video, you'll watch his video and see, he says that if you need help finding any of these books, he'd be happy to oblige. And of course, I say the same thing for any book club. I'd be happy to help find you a physical print copy of the book if that's what you want, if you don't do e-reading, or an e-copy if you do e-reading. So don't let that deter you. We still have plenty of time because the Lone Star Book Club is not kicking off until March. And March's pick is The Getaway by Jim Thompson, the great Jim Thompson, who is not well enough known. He is not widely enough read. He is incredible, just incredible. These are gritty, violent, crime noir novels, and if you hear that and you think, well, that's not for me, you would be mistaken. He is one of the rare exceptions where that actually is for you, where you're actually going to really like it. So I hope I have these things in the right chronological order. These are the books, anyway, for the Lone Star Book Club. You want to check Randy's video for the exact order. I think I have them in the right order. So, for instance, after March, we have April, which, of course, is Shakespeare. So we will be, for the Lone Star Book Club, and for April, and then all throughout the year, this is one of the picks that actually can spill over. And that should, because it's poetry. And with poetry, you want to take your time. But we are reading the sonnets of William Shakespeare, with an aim towards talking about them, understanding them, liking them, maybe even picking the ones you like the most. Then for May, we will be going back to crime fiction. This is contemporary crime fiction. This is Cleet by James Lee Burke. This is a Dave Robichaux novel that centers on one of Dave Robichaux's friends, his best friend, Cleet. I could swear that I've read all the Robichaux novels, and I've written about a couple of them. I've been commissioned to review a couple of them. I could swear I wrote about this book somewhere for somebody. My reflex now, with the huge body of writing that I've done, is just to ask David Murphy. It isn't even to go to Google. It's because Google doesn't get everything. It's to ask him, haven't I written about this somewhere? But whether I have or not, this is late Burke. James Lee Burke, by the time he wrote this book, he'd written 30 books, something like that, and he's really good. Dave Robichaux is a little bit larger than life, but boy, oh boy, are these books good. This is a series and an author where if you haven't read him, you have a lot of treats in store. You have a whole series in store that you will like. Then for where are we now? June on the Range. The beloved BookTube event created by Michael K. Vaughan. June on the Range is all dedicated to westerns. And because Texans do everything big, Randy decided that he would include a Western for the month of June, and that Western would be 900 pages long. He chose Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry for the month of June. Of course, I am on board with the Lone Star Book Club, just as I am with Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. I don't, in any book club like that, there are going to be books that you've read more than others, or maybe some of you, there'll be books, or me too, there'll be books that we haven't read at all. I don't know how many times I've read Lonesome Dove. Always up for a reread, especially in good company. So that's June. Then July, we have a book that I have not read at all. I've read some of this author, but not all, and this is one that got by me. This is God Bless John Wayne by Kinky Friedman. Very much along the lines of James Lee Burke, only more wisecracky and maybe a little bit more dated. Kinky Friedman, I think, is the closest thing we get on this list to an acquired taste, whereas Roger's Cheap Old Book Club could be accurately described as 100% acquired taste. Here, I think this is the only one on the list that you might dislike. There are a couple of rhetorical flourishes in Kinky Friedman novels that I have not liked. Not just that I've said that's not for me. I just thought that's not for me. I know what you mean by it, and I don't like what you mean by it. But I've never read this one, and I far more like this author than dislike him. So this is a fascinating choice. It's one of the things I love about the Lone Star Book Club in its inaugural year is that a lot of these choices are unpredictable, and that's terrific. I like this next one. I would never have seen this coming. Never. The next one. So this is. Where are we now? It was June on the Range, and then July is God Bless John Wayne. Okay, so this would be August, but August is the home of another revered book club, booktube event, Garb August, and this is not garbage. This is the collected stories of Catherine Ann Porter. For August. I had this cover. I just pulled it off the internet, but this is the cover of a crappy trade paperback that was issued and was the only thing you could get by this author in bookstores forever and ever and ever. I think this paperback somewhere. I doubt that it would survive a reading. I think it would crack into pieces. And I am more familiar with this author's nonfiction than with her fiction, even though she's famous for her fiction. But she's great. And again, if like with a couple of other things on this list, if you're not familiar with this author, you're in for a real treat, something you will be going back to for the whole of your reading life. Next we have something that I have been going back to for the whole of my reading life. This coincides with another BookTube event, Sumerian September. This is The Savage Tales of Solomon Kane by Robert E. Howard. This is Robert E. Howard's third or fourth most popular character. Solomon Kane is a fighting Puritan, so he's far closer to our own present day than the mythological prehistory of Kull or Conan. He lives in actual historical times. I mean, Deb and I were alive during the Puritan days, so but he still managed to have quasi-supernatural adventures. They're not any good. This character's dumb. The only reason that Robert E. Howard fans like him is something they will not admit. The hat. The hat is the only reason. If he didn't have that hat, or if he had a different kind of hat, then no. No, then it'd be, these are kind of boring. But I could be wrong about that. It's the wonderful thing about book clubs, is that you're not in them alone. You're reading with a whole bunch of other dedicated readers. I have gone back to Solomon Kane many, many times. I have tried him many, many times. And my initial reactions to him were confirmed every one of those times. Believe it or not, when that happens, I don't feel any tingle of satisfaction. I feel disappointment, because like all the rest of you, I want to add a great thing to my reading list. I want to find a new favorite. Those of you who are tackling the Lone Star Book Club and are not familiar with the books that I've named so far, I'd be willing to bet that either Kinky Friedman or James Lee Burke, or both, will become new favorites, and that's saying nothing of Jim Thompson. So I think that's a goal of all readers, that we want to achieve. We want to be satisfied, pleased, even where we know we weren't pleased before. So come September, I will be giving Solomon Kane another try. This is the Ballantine trade paperback. It has illustrations. It has a great introduction. It's by far the best volume of Solomon Kane to get. I don't think I have it, but I'd be willing to bet it will turn up at the Brattle Bookshop between now and then. I'd be willing to bet it would. I might have an ebook of it. But that is for September. We're going to Robert E. Howard, one of the most famous Texan authors, is Robert E. Howard. Not a lot of people in the world, comparatively speaking, would know that he's from Texas, but he's still one of the most famous Texas authors of them all because he wrote an immortal character. One of the only writers in the 20th century to write an immortal character. He wrote Conan the Barbarian. So that'll be fun to approach that again. It's been a while since I read a lot of Solomon Kane. Okay, then there's the next one on the list. I was exaggerating when I said that I don't remember how many times I've read Lonesome Dove. If I worked at it, if I went through it in my mind, I could give you a number of how many times I've read Lonesome Dove. I don't think it's more than like 6, for instance. That's a high number to reread a book, especially a long book, but I don't think it's more than that. It's certainly fewer than 10. But this next book is in that group of books, I'm sure you have them too, where I literally do not know and could not possibly ascertain how many times I've read it. Literally no idea. In other words, the number isn't more than 10. The number is more than 200 or 300. And that is Dracula by Bram Stoker. We are reading Dracula for the Lone Star Book Club. And the little toehold that Randy gives for the Texas connection is that one of the suitors of Lucy Westenra is a Texan, a big, broad, stereotypical Texan. I've read this book on this channel. I think I participated in reading out loud. I will never miss an opportunity to reread it. So I will gladly reread it for the Lone Star Book Club. Then, so that would be October, right? Yeah, October, because that's for Halloween, for Dracula for Halloween. Then for November, again, Texans never do anything by half. For November, we are reading a book even longer than Lonesome Dove. We are reading The Lord of the Rings, the first part of which is The Fellowship of the Ring. The whole of The Lord of the Rings in November. I don't know how it's going to work. I strongly urge you not to rule out the possibility just off the top of your head. Give it a try. It's entirely possible to read Lonesome Dove in 1 month. It's entirely possible to read Lord of the Rings in 1 month. And you're going to have some good company for the Lone Star Book Club. So we're reading all of the Lord of the Rings, not just Fellowship of the Ring. And then we get to December. And here I'm listing these for you, but of course I will not be reading them with you or with the rest of the club or with Randy. But you will still be going full steam in December. I will be checking out in September, so I probably won't read either of these, although they're so short. For December, I guess Randy was probably thinking, everybody's got a lot of other things on their mind. They've got a lot of things to do. You don't want to read Lonesome Dove in December. So he picked 2 quintessential Christmas short works that you could read in one afternoon if you wanted to. The first is Gift of the Magi by O. Henry, and then A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, which is it's a thing that, I mean, both of them. The Gift of the Magi is less well known now than it was 100 years ago. A Christmas Carol, everybody thinks they know it, but most of the time it's been my experience that people who think they know this have never actually read it. They know it from the infinite number of adaptations. And a lot of those adaptations are very, very, very good. And I'm not talking just about the Muppets Christmas Carol, of course. That is easily the best one. But there are plenty of others that are really, really good. But I've never seen an adaptation of this that got everything in it, that did everything that it's doing, and also that captured its mood. It has a few moods, and moods don't translate well to the big screen. So I would strongly urge you, no matter whether or not this is overfamiliar as a pick to you or not, to read it in December, when the Lone Star Book Club is almost a whole year older. So there you go. That is the lineup for Randy Ray's inaugural book club, which has some real interesting picks on it. We touch base on hard-edged crime noir no fewer than 3 times, starting with Jim Thompson, and then moving on to 2 writers, Kinky Friedman and James Lee Burke, who I bet, if you got them drunk, would say that their writing careers were inspired by Jim Thompson. So that's a neat trio to do in there. And you've got foundational pillars of fantasy. Not just Lord of the Rings, of course, and Dracula, but also Robert E. Howard. Maybe not with Solomon Kane, but I might be wrong about that. We'll give it a try. I'll give it a try when the time comes. So anyway, another book club, to put on your radar. I will leave a link to Randy's announcement video so that you can start to think about it. Maybe line up some reading. Maybe some of these things appeal to you. Of course, you know what Randy's like. Maybe a lot of you don't know his channel. You should go and subscribe if you don't. But he's fairly laid back. So if you want to dip in and out of the Lone Star Book Club month by month, depending on whether or not the book really interests you, you could do that. I would say you'd be cheating yourself. If you think that Catherine Ann Porter's short stories are not interesting to you and you haven't read them, you're cheating yourself out of something you might really like. Same thing with, if you look at, for instance, James Lee Burke's Cleat. If you were to go onto Wikipedia or whatever, or Goodreads, and see that it's, I don't even know, book like 22 in the Dave Robichaud there, you might think, oh, well, okay, I might have been willing to do this with the first book, but I'm not going to read the 21st book in the series. You'd be wrong. You'd be wrong about that. Same thing with Kinky Friedman. This is not at all the first Kinky Friedman book. Randy chose these well. You can jump in on those, even though they aren't standalones. But anyway, that is your lineup for the Lone Star Book Club. I didn't know how many of you had seen Randy's video, so I'll leave a link to it. Think about it. We can use all the book clubs we can get. But anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.